As the divers descend, the water pressure surrounding them increases. In response, the diver's regulator increases the pressure of their breathing gas, so that it matches the ambient pressure surrounding them. The higher partial pressure of nitrogen the diver is breathing will be absorbed through tiny grape-shaped organs called alveoli. The alveoli are located in alveolar sacs of the lungs, in the pulmonary lobules of the respiratory zone, representing the smallest functioning units in the respiratory tract. You can see gas exchange occurring here. Oxygen is being diffused into the bloodstream, and the carbon dioxide is being removed. Nitrogen is transferred through the same process, both into and out of the diver's bloodstream, depending on whether the diver is on gassing or off gassing. The nitrogen will continue to transfer into the diver's blood and tissue, as long as the partial pressure of nitrogen in the diver's lungs is greater than the pressure of the nitrogen in their tissue. This is what we are referring to as on gassing. If the diver could stay down long enough, the nitrogen would eventually reach equilibrium, and the diver's tissue would then be saturated. Commercial divers do this on a regular basis. It's called saturation diving. The amount of nitrogen that will be absorbed into the diver's tissue depends on how deep they dive, and the amount of time they spend at those depths. Divers must plan their dives. They should take into account depths, bottom times, and plan for repetitive dives. Divers use dive tables for this. During a dive, divers use their dive computers to track depth, time, no decompression limit, or NDL, accent rate, and safety stop. Their computer will also walk them through a decompression scenario if they overstay their bottom time and their no decompression limit expires. As the divers start to ascend from their dives, the partial pressure of nitrogen in their lungs will start to decrease, becoming lower than the pressure in their blood and tissues. The difference is called the pressure gradient. As the diver ascends, the pressure gradient between the nitrogen in their breathing gas and the nitrogen in their blood and tissue increases. If the diver ascends too quickly and the gradient factor increases too much, the nitrogen can come out of solution in the diver's blood and tissue. This can form bubbles, similar to what happens when you open a bottle of soda. These bubbles can obstruct blood flow, that is the cause of decompression sickness or DCS. There are two types of DCS. DCS type 1 is the least dangerous, and accounts for almost 3/4 of all DCS events. The bubbles in DCS type 1 are usually found in the joints, ligaments, or under the skin. Bubbles under the skin appear as red blotches and are most frequently found on the shoulders and chest, but can appear anywhere. They are itchy, but not a serious danger. Bubbles that form in joints and ligaments cause pain and make movement difficult. Divers with type 1 DCS should seek immediate medical attention. The bubbles can get bigger, move around the body, and may cause type 2 DCS. Type 2 decompression sickness is rare, but very serious, and can lead to death. The most common forms of type 2 DCS are nitrogen bubbles that interfere with the central nervous system. Depending on the number and size of bubbles, and where the blood flow is blocked, the diver could experience tunnel vision, dizziness, confusion, tingling, numbness, loss of bladder control, difficulty with balance, and in the worst case scenario, paralysis, or even death. The risk of decompression sickness is very low if you dive within your limits and use your computer and dive tables. The chance of getting decompression sickness on a recreational dive is 1 in 10,000. Most cases of DCS are caused by divers' error and are avoidable. If the diver follows their training and makes a slow ascent, the pressure gradient between the nitrogen in their lungs and in their tissues will be kept low. The nitrogen will work its way from the diver's tissues to the alveoli. Here the gas exchange will happen in reverse. The nitrogen will diffuse out of the blood through a network of tiny blood vessels, called capillaries, that surround the alveoli. He will safely exhale the nitrogen with his expelled gas. Even after a diver makes a slow ascent and completes their safety stop, they will still have residual nitrogen in their tissues. This is why divers take surface intervals between dives, where they rehydrate and rest. Divers also don't dive within 24 hours of flying. Another way divers can reduce the amount of nitrogen they are on-gassing is to eliminate some of the nitrogen from their breathing gas. They can do this by using something called enriched air nitrox, or simply nitrox. Nitrox is a breathing gas that has an oxygen percentage above 21%. By increasing the percentage of oxygen, we decrease the amount of nitrogen we are on-gassing. Nitrox is ideal for divers who find their bottom time is being limited by their NDL or node decompression limits, or when dove as air for an extra safety buffer for multiple dives. Remember, pay attention to node decompression limits, make slow ascents, complete your safety stops, and your risk for DCS will be extremely low. We hope you enjoyed this video and came away with a better understanding of physics and physiology.
Connecticut Scuba Academy is a nonprofit educational organization.